my favorite program is called ExporTech. And what I've found in businesses is how do we grow? And generally, one of the first thoughts is, oh, well, let's look into some foreign markets, and it's quickly dismissed because there is a lot of work behind that. There's a lot of research, there is a ton of vetting, and then you have to deal with the government, which is always, everybody's gone to the DMV and understands how great that is. So, one of our programs is called ExporTech, and it basically takes all of those excuses of why you aren't expanding into foreign countries off the table. You go through a program, and at the end of the program, you have a fully vetted plan of how to expand your business into other countries. So here at the MOC, we have a couple of people that facilitate that, along with some folks from the government to get you, behind the curtain, so to speak. And that's who's going to be presenting to you today. We have Jeff Carr and Craig. He's going to also present a little bit. So it is one of my favorite programs. And Jeff, take it away.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. I'll share my screen here, and we'll get started talking about ExporTech. Okay, so, well, Bob had mentioned here that we're going to be talking about exporting, and there's a program called ExporTech, which helps small to medium-sized companies enter into foreign markets and export. You may have heard of the program before. It's a national program, and Wisconsin leads the nation in number of export techs. And it's a partnership of many different people, including the MOC, the U.S. Commercial Service, Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, the Small Business Development Business Center, the SBA, NIST, FedEx, and a whole slew of people we call our village, which are public and private resources to help you export. So without further ado, we'll jump right into it. So if you're on this webinar, you're probably thinking of exporting, or most likely already exporting, but and that's a good thing, because there's lots of good reasons why you might want to export. First of all, 95% of the world's population lives outside the United States. So if you're only dealing domestically, you're only hitting 5% of the world. So it's a big world out there, and it's getting smaller. Everybody sends stuff to here, might as well be sending stuff outside of the United States. You may be asking, well, if that's only for big companies, and I'm a small company or a medium-sized company, is exporting right for me? Well, sure it is. Most exporters, in fact, the vast majority, 97% of all exporters are small to mid-sized businesses. So that's probably fits you. And you say, well, I'm really, really small. 2/3 of that 97% have fewer than 20 employees. So lots of people are exporting. And it's a good thing to add to your portfolio. So there's some other reasons on there, but we'll jump right into the program. So how does ExporTech work? So ExporTech is a program where the outcome is you develop a international business plan, or it's a business plan for international. And the objective of that is to help you accelerate your entry or expansion into the global marketplace. And how we do that is we help you develop a plan and connect you with experts in various facets of exporting. The program helps you. We come together and for 3 sessions, and we develop your plan, and that's what you walk away with, is a international growth plan or a business plan for exporting, which is completely customized. So I think the best way to describe it, or to help you best understand the program, is we'll walk through it. So obviously with the plan here, we come up with a plan, but also part of the ExporTech program is we educate. So a portion of it, you will hear several topics, by the way, which are customized. So you're going to be hearing what you need. And we've developed a village of people, some which I mentioned at the beginning, to help you develop your plan and implement your plan. So let's walk through the timeline and they'll give you the best feel for how ExporTech works. So as I mentioned, ExporTech is 3 sessions held over approximately 3 months. We meet typically in person for the 3 sessions. However, the bulk of the work is done with you, your coach, and the people that you meet during the export sessions developing your plan. So again, the bulk of the work that will be done is between the sessions over this 3-month program. So session number 1, that's the most canned of the sessions. We all meet and we go over successful export strategies. We talk about best practices, and we'll get started right away on working on your business plan. So ExporTech, probably one of the biggest misconceptions is that it's a seminar or it's listening to a bunch of people talk about exporting, which it is not. It's a working program. So again, the goal here is we're developing your plan for your business in regards to export. So on day 1, we'll get right away and looking into market research, looking at your differentiators, and your risks and obstacles. So by the end of the day, we've jumped into your plan already, and you'll be well set for the bulk of the work, which is going to happen between session 1 and 2, which will primarily be market research. Now, most of you probably have a pretty good idea of your market. In fact, most of you are probably exporting already to some extent, and you have a desire to either grow, or if you're completely new, you might be starting, where do I go? And that's going to be handled through market research. So we want to take a step back. We have our intel that we know from our experience in the business that we're in. However, successful exporters, will step back and they'll take a look. What is the data telling us? So we'll do market research. You'll be helped with your coach. You have a coach through this whole process that will be guiding you as you move along. And you might be asking, well, where do I go for this market research? That the program will help you with that to find data, to find your avenues where you're going to find stuff. So we can look at, well, what's the macro data telling us on your market? And that may or may not line up with what you're already thinking. So it's a really good exercise. In fact, it's at least it's due diligence. I stay in my past life working in private business, did quite a bit of exporting. And now that I think about it, it keeps me up at night thinking about where was I in the right markets. We arrived at the markets due to people reached out to us, which is typical. Somebody called us or we met somebody at a trade show. And then sooner than later, we were exporting into that market. Well, we were spending a lot of time, money, and resource. And it makes me wonder, maybe the country next door was the better place for us, but we never did our due diligence. So at session number 2, which is approximately a month after session number 1, we're going to meet back again and complete and work on your plan still. Session number 2 is a custom agenda. So based on what your needs were, we'll look at what your risks and obstacles are and find out where you are at with exporting and decide who do we need to bring in from our village to talk to about those subjects. And some of those subjects might be identification and evaluation of the partners, distribution people, distributors, reps, and partners, legal agreements, trade shows, missions. How do I optimize my website? Understanding HS codes and duties and taxes and landed costs. And maybe you want to know more about trade agreements or free trade agreements, understanding Incoterms. How do I get paid? Minimizing my risk. Maybe you've got currency risk that might be concerning to you. Intellectual property protection, and so on. The facets of international business are big, and we've got a heck of a village built that can address those issues. So based on the feedback that we get from you as you're working on your plans here, we'll bring in the resources to help understand those subjects. So, we mentioned at the beginning of this, do a business plan. Well, I think most of us probably do that already. Where ExportTech really shines is it's a well-developed business plan. It's easy to come up with a plan, but how do I fill in those blanks is often a little bit more difficult. How do I really know what to do, or how do I find a distributor or rep or that key partner? How do I know what I don't know? So we'll cover those sections in session number 2. Now, between session number 2 and number 3, we have a little over a month, and you'll finish up developing your plan. And before we meet again in session number 3, you'll hand your plan in about a week early. And at ExportTech, we have a panel of exporting experts review your plan. And you'll be presenting at session number 3 to your plan to the group, which consists of our panel of experts, plus the other participants. Plus, at every session of ExportTech, there's always plenty of people from our village sitting in the seats that are all hearing what you're doing and about your plan, and we'll have plenty of feedback. So at the end of the day, at session number 3, you're going to have an extremely well-vetted plan. You're going to have resources that you're going to be able to reach out to as you're developing your plan. What happens if this happens? Well, I know who to call. And at least, bare minimum, you're now on this wheel of people. If I don't know who to call, you can call me or call Heidi or your coach. You'll have plenty of people that you can just reach out to, and we'll make sure that you get to the right resource that can help you. Then after session number 3 is the most part. With ExportTech, you walk away with a plan. But what we're concerned about, and what you most want, is to develop it. You want to implement it. It's got to turn into something real. So as you go out, there are resources not only from ExportTech, which you get 8 hours of lifeline assistance from your coach. So you have somebody to reach out there to. Of course, anybody on the wheel that's public resources, we're there to help you. Plus, you've met a whole Rolodex of people that you can reach out to help you implement your plan. So you might ask ExportTech, well, I've done a business plan before. That's not a problem. And, I've been doing exporting for a while, and we seem to have figured it out. Somehow our product is getting from here to there, and we're doing it. And most of you fall into what we call reactive or incidental exporters. The world's gotten smaller. You have found people, or people have found you, that are not within our borders, and you're exporting. And by gosh or per golly, we've figured out what to do, and things are sort of working, but maybe not so smoothly, and maybe we don't know what we don't know, and we're putting ourselves at risk for several things that just haven't happened to us yet. So ExportTech was developed with a partnership between NIST, which is the National Institute of Standards and Technology, of which the MLC is part of that group, and the U.S. Commercial Service, which is the federal gateway into the federal resources regarding international. So they did this study through questionnaires and surveys and face-to-face interviews with companies, and they developed 3 different groups. The first group was what they called successful exporters. And these are people that export over 20% of their business is international, and they're growing at a rate of 10% per year or better. The second group, they were moderate exporters, or what we call the reactive or limited resource exporters. And these were people that less than 20% of all their products were international, less than 20%, or they weren't growing a rate of 10% per year or greater. And most of us fall into this bucket. The last bucket was the non-exporters. They weren't exporting at all. So what they were interested in is what was the difference between the successful exporters and the moderate exporters, and it was pretty clear. There was a line based on what the successful exporters were doing and the moderates were doing. And that's what ExportTech was developed around. How do we emulate what the successful people were doing? And one of them, as big ones, they were operating off a formal business plan. And so there was other things, obviously, that we're going to go through in ExporTech, but up to this point, it's been kind of a sales pitch for ExporTech, which that's what this webinar is about, is introducing to the resources out there. However, I want to give you maybe some walkaways, if something that I can learn today. So I'll go through just some of the topics that we have in ExporTech. So as part of this study, they found out that a few of the things that the successful exporters were doing that the moderates were not was, one, they understood their proposition and value proposition and differentiators. And in ExporTech, we go through that. We help you develop your elevator pitch and truly understand what sets you apart from your competitors. So this is, everybody has one, but we don't use them very, very well, our value propositions, even domestically. So if we pretend that we're going to do this international, we have to really understand what our value proposition is, what makes us different from our competitors, and truly being able to maximize or take advantage of that. Because we don't want just an international sale. We want to find a sale or a market that appreciates what we have to offer, and more importantly, willing to pay for it. Being in the United States and having to export, we all know there's more work, there's extra cost to it. We don't want to find ourselves in a market where we're competing for the low cost as a low cost provider. Another thing that the successful exporters are doing is they're doing their homework on market research and target market selection. Many of us find ourselves exporting kind of by accident. They've reached out to us via our website or a trade show, or even called us on the phone and said, we'd like to buy your product, and there we are exporting. And of course, if we're going to export, we're starting into a market where we're going to be spending time, money, and resources, and we certainly want to be sure that we're in the right market for us. So some due diligence up front can really pay. Just imagine spending your wheels over years of time to develop a market, and it's really not the right one for you, and the market next door might have been. And we didn't know that because we didn't take 2 minutes to check it out. Third, successful exporters understand their sales and distribution channels. It may or may not be the same as in the United States. If you're going to be shipping internationally, you might be using a distributor or a rep or another key individual or business that's going to be helping you along. And oftentimes we find ourselves going with the first person that comes along. It's not easy to find that key person in another market, in another country, halfway across the world, speaking a different language, having a different culture. How do I go about doing that? So through ExporTech, we can learn, how do I find key partners, distributors, reps, key people in your industry? How do I find them? How do I vet them? How do I know that I'm getting a good one? Because of course, this is a key person in your success. It could be success or failure based on one individual or one business. And then once I have that, how do I go about managing my channel? And lastly, what successful exporters, they have the right mindset. They're aggressive. They understand that they need to set time aside for international. They understand that it's a different market than domestic. It takes longer to develop. There's a longer sales cycle, but at the end of it, it can be the most profitable. So there's some walkaways that you can have from today, and these are some of the topics that we'll cover in ExporTech. So might be asking, what are some of the benefits of participating in ExporTech? Is first, it's going to help you get increased sales and faster sales by going through it. So if you're doing exporting alone, meaning just your company, there is an immense amount of resource that's available to you for no cost or low cost, and there's a lot of people that want to help you. Most people don't know that. So ExporTech is one way to get on that wheel. Find out what resources are out there, who can help me with exporting. Most companies generate export sales with pretty fast. That's another thing, is they accelerated getting into the markets. Less than half a year they get going, or if you're already there, it can help you develop your markets quicker. There's some cost savings. In fact, I think this is well underestimated. However, the cost avoidance of all these little issues that we run into exporting. We hear that people don't export because it's difficult, or the slew of problems. Well, these slews of problems are due to the fact that, in the United States, traditionally we sell domestically and we're used to that, and that's part of business. However, the rest of the world don't have large markets like the U.S., and exporting and shipping to other companies or countries or other markets is business, and they're used to it, and they know how to do it. If you know what you're doing, it's no more difficult than any other type of marketing or sales. And in ExporTech, we can help you with that, fill that gap of knowledge that how do I do this smoothly and without the problems that I might typically have. It saves labor hours, and of course, just with your plan. The plan that you're going to get going through ExporTech is going to be a well-vetted, solid plan, and it's going to help fill in those blanks that might have been pretty hard. How do I find a distributor or rep? How do I find market research information so I know I'm making the right decisions? Who do I call when I get myself in tied up? I have a shipment stuck somewhere and I can't figure out why they're holding it. Where do I reach out to? So there's a lot of good reasons to go through ExporTech. It's a very small investment for the potential that you can get out to it. Now, of course, there's the benefits of the program, but there's also scholarships. Going through ExporTech, there's a scholarship available. There's also significant grant available through WDC, or the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, which it's $25,000 per year for 6 years as an ExporTech graduate. And going through the program or reaching out to us, we can tell you more details about the grant program. So should I attend ExporTech, or who should attend ExporTech? Well, as I mentioned, ExporTech is a customized program. So it's not a seminar. It's not just listening to people talk about exporting. It's developing your plan. And we'll bring in resources to help you fill those. So no matter where you are in your exporting, I've never shipped anything out of the country before, to I've been doing this for decades, and I think I know the ropes. It doesn't matter. We've had both, and we've been very successful. ExporTech was developed more towards the new and reactive. However, recently we've had very experienced exporters go through the program, and in fact, I think they tend to get more out of it than anybody, due to the fact that their problems, if you've been exporting for a while, you maybe figured out the basics. However, when you get into the details, your problems might not be Googleable ones. I just can't look it up online and it's there. I need to find somebody who's run across that problem before and who's had those issues before. And of course, in ExporTech, you'll be surrounded by people that have years and years of experience in various facets of exporting. So if we can't find a resource that can help answer your question, we're pretty hard pressed. So next, I'd like to introduce you to Craig LeTourneau. He's one of our longtime ExporTech coach. He's been with the ExporTech program since the beginning in Wisconsin. Craig is the managing partner of Mary Channels LLC, which has been in, he's had over 30 years of experience in exporting and sales and marketing. So I will hand this over to Craig, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about the ExporTech program and what that can do for companies. So Craig, I will stop sharing, and I think your face will pop up. There we go. Good morning, Craig. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Thank you, Jeff. Morning, everybody. Jeff asked me to just kind of talk a little bit about what I see as with the companies. As Jeff said, I've been doing this with companies now for ExporTech for well over 10 years, and pretty much since the beginning. And it's pretty interesting, because we run the gamut on the kind of companies that we deal with. It could be anything from the very small company to the very large division of a corporation. And they all really get something out of it. The 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 things that people like are that we typically try to do everything in person. We like the in-person experience because it really minimizes the distraction. You're allowed to focus on the plan and developing the plan. You're actually able to meet the presenters, build a relationship with them, and actually know who you need to do to place phone calls to. So the in-person is really unique. It doesn't mean that we don't do online. We can accommodate some of those kinds of things, but we do really try to lean into the in-person experience. One of the biggest things that I've seen out of the dozens of companies that I work with is just the network of resources that companies can have. You have your product and it's held up in Brazil at the port and you don't know why or you don't know how to get it out. Well, who do you call? As you go through ExporTech, you're going to have all these contacts, excuse me, that you're going to meet and be introduced to. So now you can pick up the phone, you can call somebody, you can say, look, my product is sitting on the docks in Brazil. I don't know how to get it out. They're telling me I need XYZ paperwork. What do I do? They'll help you. They'll help you get through the process. They'll help you get your product out and get it through. So this network of resources that you're going to meet is going to provide not only the contacts for people to ask questions to, but additional market research. How do I find information on a country if I want to develop and go into a country and find a new market? How do I go in if I want to find a new distributor or a new channel, a new reseller? You'll know the people to call, you know the programs that are available to you through some of the government agencies that allow you to participate with them to vet a new distributor or to vet a new dealer or to go into a new market and really find out what the research is that you really excuse me, that you really want to have. So this whole network of resources you're going to find is going to be incredibly invaluable to you as you go forward in your journey through selling internationally. And that's why I say, whether you're a beginning company and you got an order and you don't know what to do with it, or you're an experienced exporter, but you've got a distributor that isn't really helping as much as you want them to help, you can't get enough mind share with that distributor. We have people that you'll meet that really are going to build a foundation for you to really kind of kick off your international plan. Now, why do people actually get in and want to develop a plan? Maybe you have a new market you want to get into, a new country, a new region of the world. Maybe you want to expand your distribution channels. You have a distributor, but you don't like the distributor. How do I find a new distributor? What do I do? I don't like a reseller have. How do I get rid of them? What do I have to watch out for? All these things are things that you need to know as you go into the international world. And, you've really got to figure out what it is that you need to put together for your particular product and or service, because it's not just physical products. This also applies to services that might be complementary to your physical products. Um, what do I really need to do to be able to sell my products in a foreign market? One of the largest and ooh-ah moments and that people come up with are some of the compliance issues that they really need to worry about. Companies don't realize that they're responsible for where their product ends up any place in the world. And so if you sold a product to a distributor who sells a product to somebody that shouldn't be being sold to because there's an embargo on that country or that company or whatever else, you need to know who those people are and whether or not they can be sold to, because you're responsible for it. It's a huge compliance issue, and it's just one of the many compliance issues that you're going to learn about as you go through the program. So creating this plan is really going to set you up to really make sure you're doing it right and you're going to be profitable and you're going to be successful. Now, the other thing that Jeff also alluded to, which is a big part of the plan, is through the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, you always have the ability to get matching grant funds from them to do business internationally. But one of the benefits of going through the ExporTech program is you get to be, those benefits expand. They expand from $10,000 in grants to $25,000 in grants, from 3 grants to 6 grants. And so all of a sudden you have hundreds of thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars available to you to create your new website, to localize it in a language, to create any kind of marketing materials, to do market research, to hire consultants, to do whatever else you need to do. So the program is just used in an invaluable number of ways by the people that I've seen as they go through. My role is to help you through the process, to get you from session 1 to session 2 to session 3 to graduation. And I'm happy to help you with that. We're going to, if you have questions, we'll figure out the answers. If you need to meet people, I'll find them for you. And then once the program's all over with, you'll have some of my time available to help you kickstart a program and really get off and running. So I strongly encourage you to join the ExporTech family. And I want to thank you for the time this morning, and I'll turn it back over to Jeff now.
All righty. Thank you, Craig. All right. So getting close here. You might be asking, what's this going to cost me? So the cost of the ExporTech program, the program has a value of $9,000 per company. However, I mentioned earlier that there's scholarships available. So if you go through the ExporTech program and meet the requirements, which are pretty simple, you'll get a $4,500 scholarship from the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, which is nothing that you need to do as far as paperwork or filling out anything. It's an automatic scholarship as long as you meet the requirements, which are you complete all 3 sessions of the ExporTech program. You complete a plan. You have at least three markets looked at. We look at 3 markets in your plan. Some people question that, oh, I know I'm going to Mexico. Why do I want to look at 2 others? Well, it's part of the plan because we always have a backup. What if something happens with your plan to Mexico and you need to switch gears? It's part of doing a solid plan. And then you're in good standing with the state, meaning you don't own a bunch of back taxes or have legal issues or something with the state of Wisconsin, which would, why would they give you more money if they're already having issues with you? So they're pretty simple requirements. And you don't need to do anything besides complete the program and the requirements, and you will be billed for the $4,500 out of pocket from your company. Now, what that includes is all 3 sessions. You have your coaching from Craig or one of our coaches through the whole process, plus 8 hours of lifeline assistance post ExporTech. So when you get into implementing, there's some time available to use however you wish between you and your coach. All the course materials, most of them are digital, but you'll walk away with a bunch of course materials and information. There's a value package from our sponsors. The sessions all include refreshments and lunch for all 3 sessions. Now, the cost, this $4,500 per company includes up to 3 employees from each company. So it's not 3 times 4,500. It's $4,500 per person. What we're most interested in there is that we have the right people to be at ExporTech, and those people are C-level or C-suite people from your company. It's a business plan, so we want people that are able to make decisions for the company and pull the trigger, so to speak, internally to export. So typically those would be either people like CEO or VP of sales or head of international, those type people within your company. And it's important that we have the right people there. I guess who wouldn't be there? This wouldn't be a program for say your shipping clerk. Our shipping clerk is having a problem filling out the paperwork or doesn't understand them. That's not the reason to go to ExporTech. They wouldn't be included in that. However, through ExporTech, we can find your resources and programs or use some of your grant money to find stuff that you can train. You can train your shipping clerk to understand paperwork better or how to fill out packaging and so. So when's the next session? We have one coming up. We have them usually twice a year. The best place to check for when the next sessions are is at uw-stout.edu /ExportTech. We do limit the program to 6 to 8 companies, as the sessions are individualized. So as we're working through your plans, that you have the resources available to work with you. You can go to our website, or if you have questions or just want to reach out voice to voice, you can call Heidi Rebenek as her contact information, or you can call myself. My contact information is up there.